What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to continue with the Colombia versus Mexico series. And this video is going to be about the true raw reality of the boots on the ground safety situation in both these countries. Now, after this video, you can watch the first part of this series where I compared Mexican women to Colombian women, and I know many of you are going to enjoy that video. I'll probably link it down in the description below. But safety is arguably more important. In fact, I touch a little bit on the safety in that video, but we're really going to dive deep in this video. So with all that said, let's get into it. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because so many people go to Colombia and they don't seemingly understand the gravity of the safety situation in Colombia. But if you talk about Mexico, people are like, oh, I can't go there. The cartels are all over the place. They're going to run my life. They're going to do this and that and X, Y, Z, which couldn't be further from the truth. So let's get into it. So with Mexico, there are the cartels, yes. And the cartels do cause a lot of issues, especially reflected in the national crime rates. Most of those crimes are going to be committed against other cartel members. They're not committed against everyday people like myself and most likely you. I've mentioned in plenty of other videos that you really only have to worry about the cartels if you're trying to harm their business, if you are doing some sort of weird cross-country road trip in Mexico, which I would not recommend doing, or if you are engaged in some activities that you probably shouldn't be engaging in. And the fourth one is if you start a massively successful business that is a local business, then you will probably have to deal with some of the cartels. For instance, in Playa del Carmen, a lot of those businesses on Fifth Avenue, which is the tourist area, they pay a fee to the cartel for safety. But if you're not one of those four things, you're really not gonna have to worry about the cartels. And then another one is police bribery. For some reason, people think you have to bribe police left and right in Mexico. Also, once again, not going to be a very common occurrence unless you are going on some weird long cross-country road trip. Now, yes, I have heard some stories of people getting hassled by police, especially before they legalize some stuff that I don't know if you can talk about on YouTube. And what they did is they threatened to take these people to jail unless they paid 500 pesos. 500 pesos is $20 US. And yes, I get the point. It's the principle about the whole action. But guess what? Sometimes you gotta let principles take a back seat to the possible repercussions. So if it's 500 pesos or 20 US dollars versus dealing with the Mexican prison and jail system, well, I would just pay the 500 pesos. Myself and you most likely can afford 500 pesos. And these are stories I heard through the grapevine. I don't know how true and accurate they are. I've personally never had to deal with bribing a police officer, and I've never been randomly stopped. And I've never had a negative run-in with the police in Mexico in over 4 years. Now, what I will say is, just like in pretty much every other major city, there is going to be petty crime and petty theft. I mean, that's just like living in Mexico City. You can't say you're not going to see those kind of things, especially if you're using public transportation. But here's the thing. You're pretty much never going to be threatened for your life over these things. I will also add that there are a decent amount of Mexican cities lower crime rates than the United States. So when people tell me they are worried about safety in Mexico, it absolutely boggles my mind. If my 80-year-old grandmother can come to Mexico alone, then I am sure you can as well. Also, a little bonus one. If you're going on dates with Mexican women, They aren't going to try and put some stuff in your drink and then you're going to wake up missing everything you own, because that is not something that happens in Mexico. Now, let's go to Colombia. And we'll start with what I just said. If you're a single guy going to Colombia in non-P4P settings, then you are taking a major risk as it relates to your personal safety. And yes, there are certain things that you can do to minimize your risks. Like, for instance, you could rent a completely different hotel room or Airbnb for that purpose. But is that something you really want to do? You can also go to like second, third, fourth, fifth tier cities. Once again, is that something you are really interested in doing? And many of you rely on dating apps. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but is definitely one of the easiest ways to meet women overseas. And so if you're eliminating that from your life, well, how much success are you really going to have? Then, with that said, everyone knows that the police aren't exactly super helpful in Colombia. Once again, I've never had this personal experience, so I am going through what I've heard through the grapevine, but most people will tell you if you get robbed or you get stuck up in Colombia, the police are just going to say, well, you shouldn't have been daring papaya. They're going to victim blame you for whatever occurred to you. This includes if you get robbed. They're going to go, why are you walking around with your fancy iPhone? Why are you walking around with your chains and gold necklaces? And as I mentioned with the previous topic, yes, you can reduce your chances of these things happening to you. Don't wear your Apple Watch Ultra. Don't wear your nice clothes. Don't wear these things. But that's where you need to know who you are and what you want out of life. If you like nice things and you like wearing nice things, well, then you probably shouldn't go to Colombia. Like, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was telling me how he wants to have like a Range Rover or a Lamborghini or something in Colombia. And I was like, probably not a great idea. Wherever you go, you are going to draw attention to yourself. And he's like, yeah, Josh, but I just like these things. I like nice things. And I go, yeah, you need to accept that's who you are. And some countries aren't going to be a fit for you and the lifestyle that you want. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go do these things, but I'm letting you know you're probably at a higher risk level than the average person. Whereas in Mexico, if you drive around with a Porsche or Lamborghini or Range Rover, you might draw attention to yourself, but they're not going to be making phone calls and following you and trying to set up a lick on you. If they see you wearing a Rolex, they're not going to be following you, trying to get the first opportunity to get that Rolex from you, usually with the assistance of a tool that is fairly lethal. And many of these people have shown that they have no value for human life. In fact, just the other day, someone was posting a story about how they wanted to go hiking in Medellin, and they got robbed and got nailed on the head with a tool that I can't say on YouTube, all over like a $300 camera. And that's just another thing that people don't talk about when it comes to Medellin. They always say, oh, it's these passport bros, they're engaging in these activities, blah, blah, blah. But it's just normal, regular, everyday people who are trying to enjoy the nice weather and the nice forests and go hiking that get caught up as well. And then that brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. And that's the fact that in Mexico, you've seen me walking around with my phone out, recording videos in popular areas and not so popular areas. And if someone truly thinks that Medellin is so safe, then I want to go see them recording for an hour straight in Laureles, Poblado, multiple times, and see how that goes for them. So I think I made my point pretty clear in this video that the safety levels of these two countries simply cannot be compared. It's not even close, not even in the same atmosphere or galaxy. And I'm not saying that Colombia is some sort of war zone, but I am saying it is significantly less safe than Mexico. And obviously, there are some generalities in this video, because obviously, if you're going to go to some little podunk town out in the middle of nowhere, then you're probably not going to have a ton to worry about. But most people are interested in Medellin, Bogota, maybe Cartagena, and Cali. And most of this video is going to apply to all those places. Where in Mexico, most people are interested in Mexico City, Guadalajara, maybe Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Playa del Carmen. And all the things I said here going to apply to those places. In fact, Mexico has, I believe, the safest city in Latin America, in Merida, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula. Although I definitely wouldn't recommend going there during summer because it is super hot. But that's a topic for another video. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you think about the safety situation, especially if you've been to both these places or if you've been to either of these places. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments down below, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. And as always, peace, much love.